He dumped me on stage at his album release party, said I was bad for his image into the mic in front of hundreds. I stood there in the crowd, mascara streaking, heart shattered. He thought I'd melt, but while he was chasing clout, I was collecting receipts. By the time his Spotify streams dried up, I'd already planned my next move. Before the stage lights, before the betrayal, before the explosion that was us, there was just me, Lena, the quiet girl with a chaotic brain. A barista/graphic designer with dreams I didn't tell anyone about because they felt too delicate to say out loud. And then came Nico. Nico with the crooked grin and guitar fingers. The kind of guy who walks into a coffee shop and somehow makes it feel like a movie set. He'd order an oat milk latte, flirt just enough to leave me flustered, and scribble lyrics on napkins while waiting. I found one once. Her eyes, hurricane wild, soft like Sunday, sharp like wine. I thought it was about me. He never said it wasn't. We started off slow. Coffee after work. Walks through the city with his playlist in my ears. I made him laugh, and he made me feel like the main character in someone else's story. But I didn't mind. Not at first. When Nico said he wanted to go all in on music, I said I'd help however I could. I built his website, shot his album cover on my iPhone in golden hour light, designed all his merch black hoodies with cryptic lyrics, retro posters, cassette tapes that no one even owned players for. He paid me in gas station snacks and forehead kisses, and I told myself it was enough. The first time his song hit 10K streams, we slow danced in my tiny kitchen, barefoot and grinning. When he booked his first real gig at a dive bar downtown, I sat front row mouthing every word. He pointed at me during the chorus, and the girls beside me swooned. I felt like I had won something. But slowly, the audience got bigger, the stage lights got brighter, and Nico got slicker, louder, hungrier. He stopped tagging me in posts, started posting photos with industry girls, all filters, and waist trainers, and cryptic captions like leveling up. He said it was for the image, that it didn't mean anything, that I was still his real muse. But one night, I overheard him on the phone in the hallway. I wasn't supposed to hear, but I did. Nah, Lena's not part of the brand. She's sweet, but not marketable. I sat there in our shared apartment, holding a hoodie I designed with his name on the back, and felt something in me start to flicker. Like a match, waiting to catch. Still, I stayed. I wanted to believe it was stress or pressure or some dark phase he'd grow out of. And maybe I was scared. Of losing him. Of starting over. Of realizing I'd built my life around someone who never planned to build anything with me. But nothing prepared me for what he did at that album release party. And yeah, I'll get to that. But first, you need to know just how far I went for him. How much I gave. Because when it all blew up, he wasn't the only one with a mic. The night of the album release, I wore the dress Nico once said made me look like the cool girl in every indie movie, green satin, thrifted, with a tiny rip under the left arm that I'd stitched up with black thread. I paired it with boots, big hoops, and the necklace he bought me on our second anniversary, the one with a tiny silver moon. Because you're my gravity, he said. Gag. Anyway, the venue was packed. Neon lights, cheap champagne, that sticky, floored kind of energy you can only get from half-drunk, 20-somethings, screaming lyrics, like their lives depended on it. Nico's name was plastered on everything. Banners, drink specials. Even the mirror in the women's bathroom had "Welcome to Nico's World" scrawled in red lipstick. I stood by the merch table, selling t-shirts I had designed, handling the QR codes for pre-saves, smiling at girls who had hearts drawn on their cheeks, and Nico's initials on their collarbones. I should have felt proud. I should have felt something. But instead, there was this gnawing feeling in my gut, like I was a background extra in a movie I helped fund. Still, I clapped when he came on stage. Still smiled when he shouted, "I love y'all," into the mic. Still mouthed the words to the songs I knew by heart, because I helped write 2 of them, though you'd never know that now. Then it happened. Halfway through his set, Nico paused. The band went quiet. The crowd buzzed with anticipation. I thought, maybe he's gonna thank me. Maybe, even though he'd been distant, even though things had felt off, he'd at least acknowledge the girl who was literally holding his career together with Canva and elbow grease. But no. Instead, he said, "Before I play this next track, I just want to be real for a sec. This album's about growth, you know? Cutting dead weight. Shedding what doesn't fit the vision." Some people cheered. I froze. Then, looking right at me, standing there in that green dress under the flickering LED lights, he smirked and added, "Sometimes you realize the person you've been with isn't good for the brand." No shade. Just facts. Laughter. Actual laughter. From strangers. From the crowd I helped build. And then the music started again, like nothing had happened. But something had. Oh, something snapped. I didn't cry. Not then. I stood there, smile frozen like cheap Botox, handing out shirts to girls who didn't even know my name. But inside? Inside, I was unraveling, one thread at a time. He thought I'd melt, that I'd storm off, that I'd hand him the narrative, gift-wrapped. But I stayed. Because while Nico was chasing Clout under stage lights, I was collecting something else. Receipts. For every song he stole. Every Venmo I sent. Every Photoshop file with my initials in the corner. Every unpaid invoice, late-night call, and ghostwritten caption. He thought I was his backup singer. He had no idea I was about to become the headliner. The second I got home from the party, I kicked off my boots, peeled off the green dress, and sat on the edge of my bed barefoot, mascara smudged, hair smelling like secondhand smoke and betrayal. The room felt too quiet, like even my apartment didn't want to look me in the eye. My phone lit up with a text from Nico. Don't take it personal. It's all part of the act. You're overthinking it. No apology, no explanation, just damage control wrapped in ego. I didn't respond. Instead, I opened Spotify. I wasn't even sure why. Maybe I needed to hear something that wasn't his voice on that stage. Maybe I was looking for a reminder of when things were good, safe, real. And that's when I saw it. A private playlist, titled Simply Rough Cuts for L. It had been there for months. I'd forgotten about it. I clicked. 12 tracks, some named after dates, 3.17. Midnight Pasta, Green Dress. Others were just single words. Muse, Gravity, Home. I hit play. The first one was a demo. Raw, imperfect, just Nico and his guitar. But the lyrics? They were mine. Mine. Literally. I remembered writing them. On the back of a grocery receipt, sitting on the floor of our old apartment with wine-stained sweatpants and a Sharpie. I remember saying, "This sounds like a chorus," and Nico nodding like he was actually listening for once. But in interviews? In captions? On stage? Written by Nico Wilde. Except here, in this secret little playlist I wasn't supposed to find, was proof. My words, my melody, my harmony on the background vocals. The same vocals that somehow got muted in the final release. I sat there, listening to the tracks, my hands trembling. Every single song told a story, our story, but filtered through his lens. Polished to make him the romantic, the tortured genius. I was the silhouette in the background, the blurry muse he never had to name. Until tonight, when he made it crystal clear I wasn't good for the brand. I should have been heartbroken. But instead, I felt electric. Because now I had something better than heartbreak. I had evidence, so I did what I do best. I opened my laptop, pulled up the folder labeled Wild Album Assets. Inside, every project file I touched. The original song drafts with my annotations. The rejected cover art concepts. The logo I custom designed. Screenshots of our messages discussing lyrics. Even a video clip of me recording backing vocals in his closet studio 7 months ago, with him whispering "your magic" between takes. And then, there were the emails. Invoices. Unpaid. Labeled pending like he was some corporate overlord instead of a broke musician with a ring light and a god complex. I backed it all up. Twice. One on a flash drive. One in a hidden folder labeled tax stuff on my Google Drive. I didn't know exactly what I was going to do yet. But one thing was clear. This wasn't just personal anymore. It was professional. And Nico Wilde was about to learn that the girl behind the curtain knows exactly how to pull the strings. The morning after the release party, I woke up with a plan forming like fog on a mirror, still a little blurry, but there. Alive. I didn't text Nico. I didn't post a single word. I knew better than to go full scorched earth on Instagram with a breakup announcement. Or a Notes app apology nobody asked for. That's his style, loud, messy, performative. Me? I prefer strategic chaos. So I started small. My first move was on LinkedIn. Yeah, I know, not exactly sexy. But let me explain. I updated my work history, freelance designer, creative consultant, brand identity, digital promo, and album assets for indie music campaigns, including creative direction on Nico Wilde's 2023 EP Golden Hour Ghosts. I made it clear. I had been part of this. Not supportive girlfriend energy. Professional creative. Contributor. Architect of the entire aesthetic he now claimed as his. It didn't take long before the likes started rolling in. Old classmates. Industry mutuals. One girl I interned with who now works at an indie label DM'd me. "Wait, you did that cover? It's fire." "Yep, I did." "And Nico?" He noticed. That afternoon, he called. I didn't answer. He texted instead. "Hey, can you take that down? It's kinda confusing, PPL." Confusing? No, baby. It's clarifying. I left him on read. Next, I opened TikTok. Not for revenge porn level drama, but for something better. Truth in disguise. I made a video. Faceless. Just my voice over clips of old photos, design mock-ups, and blurred-out lyric sheets. Aesthetic vibes only. The caption? POV. You built his brand, wrote his love songs, and got ghosted for not being on brand. But you kept the receipts. The video? Soft piano. Me humming a melody I wrote. Hashtagged girl designer music scene creative credit story time. Within hours, it had 11K views. People started asking questions. Is this who I think it is? Wait, are you the one who designed the hoodie? I bought that. No way he didn't credit you? I didn't say yes, didn't say no. Just replied with an eyes emoji and let the mystery marinate. Because the goal wasn't to ruin Nico in one dramatic swoop. Not yet. I wanted him to sweat, to see the narrative slipping out of his hands. And it was working. That night, he reposted a throwback video on his story, him and me, laughing in a field, back when we were just two broke dreamers with a tripod and time. Caption: Some people forget the good times too fast. Ugh, manipulation in lowercase font. But what he didn't know, I wasn't just airing dirty laundry, I was building leverage. Because the next phase wasn't just about telling my side, it was about taking his stage. 2 days after my soft launch into revenge, I got an email with the subject line, Creative Work Inquiry Urgent. At first, I thought it was spam, but then I saw the sender. Eva CAR Coordinator, Moonrise Records. My heart did a little thud thing. Not because I was excited, not even because I was nervous, but because I knew that label. Moonrise Records was the boutique indie label Nico had been begging to notice him for months. He'd name-drop them like they were a first crush. If Moonrise reps me, it's over. Game over. I'm gone platinum. Blah blah blah. Guess who they repped now? Me. Well, sort of. The email was polite, professional, but laced with something else. Curiosity. Hi Lena, we recently came across your name through a few digital channels and were impressed by your creative work, particularly your involvement in the Nico Wild project. We'd love to set up a brief call to learn more about your contributions, especially as we begin discussions around potential future collaborations in the indie alternative space. Translation: so, we didn't know he had a secret weapon, and we'd like to talk to her before we sign him. I waited exactly 3 hours before replying. Professionalism and suspense, bestie. The next day, I got on a Zoom call with Eva. I wore a black blazer over a vintage band tee, hair slicked back, no makeup except for one ruthless cat eye. I looked like a woman who billed hourly and didn't flinch at red flags. Lena, she said, smiling. You've been busy this week. Oh, have I? I sipped my oat milk latte like it was tea. Eva leaned in. Let's talk about the Golden Hour Ghosts EP. What exactly did you do for that release? I pulled up my screen share and casually dropped a folder titled Nico Wild Creative Assets. Inside cover art drafts, design templates, lyric documents with timestamps and metadata, watermarked and dated, bulletproof. I did the entire visual identity, I said. Every single post, flyer, merch item, website header. I also co-wrote 2 of the tracks, though I wasn't officially credited. I can walk you through my notes if you'd like. Eva's eyes widened. She wasn't just interested, she was taking notes. I didn't badmouth Nico. Not once. I let the files speak for themselves. I ended the call with a polite smile and a happy to be looped into any future conversations if needed. She thanked me, said they'd be in touch. An hour later, Nico called. Not texted. Called. I let it ring. Then came the message. Lena, what the hell did you do? Eva just called. Said you talked to the label. You told them you co-wrote songs? Are you trying to kill my deal? I sat on my couch, freshly showered, skin glowing, plate of dumplings on my lap, and played that voicemail 5 times. No apology. No accountability. Just pure, uncut panic. Good. I wasn't trying to kill his deal. I was just telling the truth. But if the truth happened to make him squirm, well, that was just the encore. The email came at 2:17 a.m. Because of course it did. Subject line, let's be adults about this. From Nico, attached a PDF labeled Mutual Non-Disclosure Agreement Draft. I didn't even have to open it to know what it was. But I did, because I wanted to see just how far he'd go. It was short, sloppy, probably pulled from some free legal template site. But the gist? I agree not to speak publicly, post online, or share intellectual property or creative process details about Nico Wild or the Golden Hour Ghosts EP. In exchange, I'd receive a one-time payment of $2,000 for months of unpaid work, for hours of design, for literal songs I co-wrote, for my silence. I nearly choked on my late-night cereal. But the part that really got me? He ended the email with, let's just keep things professional. No need to burn bridges. Hope you understand. Oh, I understood. I understood perfectly. This wasn't professionalism. This was panic wrapped in a PDF. He thought he could buy my silence. Thought I'd take the hush money, crawl away, and leave his little empire of ego intact. Instead, I forwarded the email to Eva at Moonrise Records. With one sentence, figured you'd want to see how Nico handles co-creators. No commentary, no hashtags, just truth. 10 minutes later, she replied, "Thank you, Lena." This confirms a lot. A lot. That's when it clicked. I wasn't fighting for crumbs anymore. I wasn't just trying to get even. I was building something bigger. So I opened my laptop and started compiling everything into a portfolio site. Clean, elegant, professional. A full page dedicated to golden hour ghosts with a timeline of my work and receipts to back every claim. I didn't name drop Nico. I didn't have to. The work spoke for itself. At the top of the page, I added a quote, "Credit isn't revenge, it's reality." Within hours, it was shared on Twitter by an industry newsletter. Then a podcast I used to listen to in college DM'd me. "Can we interview you about being the woman behind the music?" The attention was wildfire, but I stayed grounded. I didn't throw stones. I didn't need to. Nico was imploding all by himself. By that evening, his latest post was flooded with comments like, "Did you really ghost your designer? Give the girl her flowers. This EP hits different now and not in a good way." His brand was cracking, and I hadn't raised my voice once. And then he texted me, "If you ever loved me, please stop." But here's the thing, I did love him. That version of him that used to dance with me in the kitchen. The boy who scribbled lyrics on napkins and kissed me like I was magic. But that version was gone. And the girl who loved him, she evolved. She got smarter, louder, sharper. And this time, she's not ghostwriting anyone else's greatness. The message popped up while I was eating cold dumplings in bed, halfway through a rewatch of The Devil Wears Prada, which felt a little too on the nose, given the whole uncredited labor situation. It was from Nico's mom, Diane Wild, known for her Pinterest addiction, elaborate Christmas cards, and aggressively supportive Facebook posts. She once made me a homemade candle for my birthday that smelled like vanilla and unsolicited advice. The text read, "Hi Lena, I know this is unexpected, but would you be open to talking?" Ugh, I almost ignored it, but curiosity got the better of me. So I replied, politely, "Hi Diane, about what exactly?" The typing bubble popped up right away. "I just want to understand what's going on. Nico won't tell me anything, and all I'm hearing is rumors. You were always honest. Could we talk?" There was something in her tone genuine, maybe. Or maybe I just wanted to hear someone say he messed up out loud. So we met. Neutral ground, a quiet corner table at this cozy tea shop downtown. Diane showed up in a cashmere sweater and emotional confusion. I wore black jeans, a blazer, and eyeliner sharp enough to slice her son's ego in half. She hugged me when she arrived. I went stiff, but didn't pull away. Once we sat down, she got straight to it. "I know Nico can be dramatic, but he's a good person. He's just under pressure, and I think he made a mistake." I stirred my tea. "You mean dumping me on stage? Or trying to erase my work? You'll have to be more specific." Diane looked pained. "He told me it was a misunderstanding, that he didn't mean to hurt you. That was the thing about Nico, he always didn't mean to. Like, damage was just a side effect of chasing dreams." I didn't lose my temper. I just told her the truth. About the unpaid work, the songs, the branding, the fake NDA. And then I said this: if I hadn't spoken up, no one would have known I ever had a hand in his career. And that's what he wanted, to succeed, alone. But you don't get to erase people just because they don't fit the aesthetic anymore. Diane didn't defend him. She didn't argue. She looked at me like someone seeing a painting they thought they knew, but suddenly realizing the artist had signed it in invisible ink. "I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't know." I nodded. "He didn't want you to." We parted on strange terms, somewhere between mutual respect and maternal heartbreak. She hugged me again, tighter this time. "You deserved better." From him. From all of us. And then she walked out into the rainy afternoon, clutching her oat milk chai and the weight of a truth her son had tried to bury. That night, I got a text from Nico. "You talked to my mom?" No question mark, just venom. I didn't answer, because he didn't get to control this version of me. Not anymore. I didn't plan on becoming a musician. I'm a designer, a behind-the-scenes girl. The quiet one in the booth, not the one holding the mic. But heartbreak does strange things to a person. It turns silence into sound, wounds into lyrics, and, in my case, receipts into a chorus. It started small. I was messing around on GarageBand, mostly out of spite and insomnia, looping a melody I'd hummed months ago, back when Nico and I were still in sync. It was meant to be a bridge for one of his songs, but he scrapped it. Said it was too soft, Funny how the softest parts are the ones that haunt you later. The lyrics came fast, scary fast, like they'd been waiting for permission. You made a stage out of my silence, built your name with borrowed lines. I lit your fuse with all my kindness. Now you're choking on the shine. I sent the rough draft to Cam, a friend of mine from college who produces dreamy bedroom pop tracks out of his garage. His reply? When are we recording? We spent 2 weekends layering harmonies, tweaking beats, and recording vocals under a string of fairy lights, with a mic balanced on a stack of old textbooks. It wasn't polished like Nico's studio sessions, but it was real, raw, mine. I named the track Placeholder, because that's what he called me. Not directly, but in all the ways that matter. The cover art? A blurry photo of me from behind, in that green satin dress, walking away. I designed it in 10 minutes flat. No fancy branding, no filters, just honesty. And then I dropped it. 1 Instagram story, 1 TikTok post, no big promo rollout. Just this: you helped him go viral. Now hear from the girl who built the brand and got burned. Placeholder out now. The internet did the rest. By midnight, the song was trending on TikTok under Girl Behind the Music. By 8 a.m., it had 47K streams. By noon, a girl stitched my video crying in her car with the caption, "Why is this breakup anthem hitting like a spiritual awakening?" And by dinner, Nico posted his version of events, a black and white selfie, captioned, "It's wild how people rewrite history for clout. The comments ate him alive. She wrote your best lines, bro. Didn't you dump her on stage? Say you're insecure without saying it." Meanwhile, Placeholder had climbed to 38 on the viral indie chart. Cam called me screaming. I just sat there, staring at the screen, stunned. I didn't want to be famous, but I did want to be heard. And for the first time, I wasn't someone's shadow. I wasn't a ghostwriter, or a prop, or a stepping stone in some guy's origin story. I was the story. And the best part? This was just my debut. It dropped exactly 5 days after Placeholder went viral. No warning, no promo, just there. On Spotify, Apple Music, YouTube. Like he thought the internet would welcome him back with open arms, just because he strummed a sad chord. Title: Moonlight Mistakes Artist, Nico Wild Genre Tryhard Apology Core TM. The cover? A black and white photo of an ashtray next to a crumpled lyric sheet. Real tortured artist vibes. The caption on his Instagram post? Some stories have 2 sides. This is mine. Insert world's smallest violin. Now I didn't want to listen. I really didn't. But curiosity is a cruel friend, and Cam texted me, "Girl, you're gonna want to hear track 2. So I did. And I wish I could say it was a masterpiece, that he dug deep, got honest, and bared his soul. But no, it was 4 minutes of vague regret, metaphors about broken mirrors, and exactly 1 line that made my jaw drop. You lit the fire, now you play the victim. Excuse me? I paused the track and just stared at the wall for a second, like it would offer a reasonable explanation. It didn't. Track 2? Even worse. She dropped a song, said it's hers, but we both know who wrote the first verse. Cam and I did write that first verse. But what Nico was clearly trying to do was cast out, blur the lines, twist the narrative. And to the untrained eye, it almost worked. His fans, what was left of them, rallied. Some reposted it with captions like, "He's hurting too, y'all." Others were more direct. "She's bitter because he made it first." Cute. But also, completely false. What they didn't know, and what I'd been saving, was the Google Doc. Dated. Time-stamped, shared with Nico, where I literally typed verse idea. "You lit your fuse with all my kindness." His words weren't his. They never were. So I dropped 1 TikTok. Just 1. It was a screen recording. A Google Doc. Titled EP Lyrics Final, with the cursor hovering over my name in the last edited column. No voiceover. No music. Just the text scrolling and the captions say you wrote it. I dare you. Within 2 hours, it had 300K views. And the comments? Girl brought receipts in 4K. Not him trying to ghostwrite your heartbreak. Pack it up, Nico. It's giving expired apology. By the end of the day, Placeholder had tripled in streams. And Moonlight Mistakes? Sitting sad at the bottom of a playlist called Breakups Bad Decisions. It's funny, he dumped me on stage to look powerful. Now I was headlining. And all he had left were metaphors and regrets. I was in the middle of folding laundry socks in one pile, my don't text him back hoodie in another when the email landed in my inbox. Subject line, Summer Bloom Fest Artist Inquiry. I blinked at it for a solid 30 seconds. Summer Bloom was the indie festival of the season. Think flower crowns, biodegradable glitter, overpriced matcha, and breakout performances from the next big names in alt-pop, moody synth, and sad girl anthems. I'd been before as a fan, once as a volunteer, handing out wristbands in the heat while dreaming of being on the other side of the barricade. And now, they wanted me. The email was from Harper, the lead talent coordinator. "Hi Lena, your track placeholder has been making serious waves. We're curating a new artist showcase at Bloom this year, and your name came up more than once. We'd love to offer you a 15-minute slot to perform. Perform, as in, on a stage, in front of people, with a mic, and lights, and maybe a crowd singing my lyrics back to me." I reread the email 5 times. Then I called Cam. "Hey," I said, voice already shaking. "How do you feel about performing live in front of actual humans instead of your cat?" He screamed. I screamed. His cat screamed. "Okay," hissed. We said yes. It didn't feel real until the next morning when they sent over the promo flyer. There I was, 3rd row on the lineup graphic, right under a girl named Rain Lux who once did an NPR Tiny Desk. Wild. But it got real when Nico reposted the lineup too. With a subtle little caption, "Wild to see some names on here." Subtweet energy. Full-on petty. But I didn't bite. Instead, I started rehearsing. Cam and I built a setlist placeholder, a stripped-down version of an unreleased track called Revisionist History, and something brand new I hadn't even named yet. Just raw chords and a hook that lived in my bones. We practiced in his garage, me barefoot on a rug that smelled like beer and ambition. Cam layering beats, looping melodies, feeding me confidence like oxygen. It was terrifying. It was thrilling. It was mine. For the first time in months, I wasn't reacting to what Nico did. I wasn't spiraling in response to a text or a diss track. I was building something, brick by brick, note by note. And the night before Bloom, I stood in front of the mirror eyeliner, winged, dress picked, boots laced, and whispered the same thing I'd said to myself the night he humiliated me. Don't flinch. But this time, it wasn't survival, it was power. The morning of the festival, I woke up before my alarm, heart pounding, brain on fire. It was like every version of myself, the heartbroken one, the silenced one, the one who almost settled, were all watching me in the mirror, waiting to see if I'd finally take up space. The venue was a sun-drenched field just outside the city, dotted with food trucks, flower garlands, and way too many ironic cowboy hats. Cam and I arrived early, lugging gear through the crowd while my stomach did Olympic-level flips. Backstage was a blur, artists tuning guitars, volunteers running on iced coffee and prayers, someone crying because they forgot their USB drive. Cam gave me a little nod, his version of "you've got this," and set up our sound check. At 3:20 p.m., a volunteer handed me a mic. "You're on in 5, she smiled. "Kill it." I stepped onto the stage as the sun hit its golden hour glow, the kind photographers chase for entire careers. The crowd wasn't huge, maybe a few hundred, but they were there. Real. Waiting. The intro to placeholder began soft, pulsing, familiar, and I took a deep breath. You made a stage out of my silence. My voice cracked just a little. Not from nerves, from emotion, from everything. The crowd leaned in. Somewhere in the second chorus, I spotted a girl near the front row singing every word. She had glitter on her cheeks and mascara smudged under her eyes, like she'd been crying or maybe healing. She saw me see her. We both smiled. Then came the second song, Revisionist History. I'd never performed it before. Heck, I barely believed I could. But as I sang about the way people rewrite your love into their lore, cherry-pick your kindness, and call it inspiration, I felt the power shift. They were listening. Not to Nico's voice, not to his version, to mine. And then came the moment. The beat faded. Cam nodded. I stepped up to the mic for my final song, brand new, untitled. But this one was pure fire. Just me, a guitar, and a truth I'd never dared to say out loud until now. You wanted a girl who'd shrink when you stood tall, but I built the stage you're standing on, and I'm not small. Not anymore. The crowd roared, hands in the air, shouts, real connection, the kind you can't fake with filters or hashtags. And then I saw him, back of the crowd, sunglasses on, hoodie up, trying to disappear in a sea of people who didn't know his name used to make me whisper, Nico, watching, arms crossed, jaw tight. Too late, love. This wasn't your set anymore. I finished the song with a grin, held the last note longer than I needed to just because I could. Applause exploded. The sound wrapped around me like armor, and for the first time since the night he humiliated me, I didn't feel small, or broken, or disposable. I felt free. As I walked off stage, Cam high-fived me so hard we almost knocked over the speaker. My hands were shaking, my heart was full, and I knew this wasn't a comeback. This was a debut.